During World War II, propaganda carved deep divisions, painting nations as monolithic enemies and shaping perceptions with fierce intensity.
But what happens when the carefully constructed narratives of war collide with unexpected human decency? This isn't just a story. It's a testament to how profoundly perceptions can shift under the most extraordinary circumstances. Historical records show that during this tumultuous period, thousands of German and Italian expatriates, ordinary civilians, caught in the crossfire war, interned across the United States. This often overlooked chapter, alongside the widely documented internment of Japanese Americans, saw individuals uprooted from their lives based on national origin, not proven disloyalty. These internees arrived on American soil, frequently carrying their own ingrained fears and prejudices, poised for a reality far different than they had been led to believe. Our story begins in 1945, amidst the scorching Texas summer, with 40 German women, interned and stripped of their liberty, packed into a stifling, unventilated transport truck. Their journey to Seagoville Camp, near Dallas, was already a grueling ordeal, a stark symbol of their enemy alien status. On a desolate Sumbact road, under the watchful eyes of visibly strained young guards, their vehicle sputtered to a halt. The engine, overcome by the relentless August heat, gave out, leaving these women, identified only as prisoners, exposed and vulnerable in an alien land, their discomfort palpable. Before we delve into this pivotal moment, if you find this history compelling, please take a moment to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Just as despair began to settle, an unexpected figure emerged from the heat haze. A weathered blue pickup, its body scarred by years of ranch life, pulling to a halt. The driver, a Texan cowboy in a sun-faded hat and worn boots, surveyed the scene. His opening words, a deep, drawling "y'all need help," were almost incomprehensible to the German women. But the sentiment was clear. The relieved guard quickly explained their predicament. A broken-down vehicle, en route to the internment camp with its human cargo. What transpired next would defy every wartime narrative, every ingrained prejudice, and fundamentally alter one woman's perception of her supposed enemy. This unexpected encounter would not just offer a temporary reprieve from the heat, but would ignite a journey that challenged the very definition of humanity amidst conflict. The cowboy's gaze swept over the women in the truck, and Annalise recognized an expression she hadn't encountered in years. Not suspicion, not hatred, but a simple, fundamental human concern. "That ain't no way to transport ladies," he stated, his voice carrying an unexpected authority. "German or not, this weather'll kill 'em. I've got water in my truck, and there's shade on my ranch just ahead. Let them rest until your engine cools down." The guard hesitated, then countered. "Sir, they are enemy combatants." "To me, they're just a bunch of hot and thirsty women," the cowboy replied, his voice firm yet gentle. "The war's almost over anyway. What harm could it do?" 20 minutes later, Annalise found herself in the welcome shade of a Texas ranch house, sipping the coldest, sweetest water she had ever tasted. The cowboy, who introduced himself as Jack Thornton, had thoughtfully arranged chairs, provided ice water, and even offered food. "My mama would skin me alive if I let ladies suffer in the sun," he explained to the bewildered guards. Annalise observed this supposed enemy, displaying more kindness towards them than her own government ever had. Something deep within her, a long-held conviction, began to fracture. Annalise, then 31, had spent the preceding 3 years incarcerated in various detention facilities. Her arrest in Mexico City in 1942 had been part of a sweeping internment of German Previously, she had worked as a translator at the consulate, a quiet profession that allowed her to send money to her family in Bremen. She harbored no political inclinations, no allegiance to Hitler or the Third Reich. Her sole desire was to survive and ensure a simple life for her aging parents. Yet, the war had dictated a different trajectory. Now, perched on a stranger's porch in Texas, watching a cowboy named Jack skillfully repair the truck's radiator, she struggled to reconcile what she was witnessing with everything she had been taught. "Is he always like this?" she murmured to the guard, her English accented but clear. "Like what?" he responded. "So kind to strangers." The guard, whose name tag identified him as Morrison, shrugged. This is Texas. Folks help each other out, even Germans, I reckon. Annalise pressed on. We were told Americans hated us. Morrison held her gaze for a long moment. Some do, ma'am, but most can separate politics from people. Y'all didn't bomb Pearl Harbor. You just happened to be here. Jack returned with a basin of cool water and clean cloths. The ladies might want to wash up. It's a long drive to the camp. The women stared at him as if he had offered gold. In the Mexican detention centers, proper cleansing had been a luxury denied for days on end. Now, this stranger extended this fundamental dignity with effortless grace. Why are you so good to us? The question came from Greta, a young woman more defiant than most. We are your enemies. Jack pushed his hat back, contemplating the query with a serious expression. Well, Mom, seems to me you didn't declare war on us. Your government did. Holding a grudge against every German seems like a waste of good energy. A network of wrinkles deepened on his weathered face as he smiled. Besides, my grandma was German, came over in 1885. So I guess, in part, I'm the enemy too. The women exchanged surprised, uncertain glances. Then a ripple of laughter, a sound they hadn't produced in what felt like an eternity. When the truck finally sputtered to life and they prepared to depart, Jack removed his hat in a gesture of respect. Good luck, ladies. Hope they treat you right at the camp. Annalise watched his ranch recede in the rearview mirror. 80 months had passed since her arrival in America, all spent behind fences. This was her first genuine encounter with an ordinary American civilian, and he had been profoundly kind. The sheer cognitive dissonance of this realization left her stunned. Seagoville Camp proved to be far from Annalise's preconceived notions. She had anticipated brutality and a cold, unfeeling American efficiency. Instead, she encountered something more paradoxical, a strange blend of boredom and unexpected comforts. Approximately 300 German women resided at the camp, most, like Annalise, apprehended in Latin America. The barracks were clean, if austere. Food was ample, though hardly homemade, a vast improvement over starvation rations. The guards were largely professional, some even genial. Yet, it remained undeniably a prison of confinement, defined by barbed wire, rigid regulations, and a complete absence of freedom. An American brand of captivity. At least they aren't working us to death, Greta remarked on their first night, assigned to the same barrack as Annalise. My cousin was in a labor camp in Poland. She didn't survive. This is different. Hilda, an older woman from Berlin, concurred. They abide by the Geneva Conventions. We receive Red Cross parcels, mail, and recreation time. We are still prisoners, Annalise murmured quietly. True, but there are far worse ways to be won. The camp operated a labor system, encompassing kitchen duties, laundry, garden maintenance, and light, industrial production of non-military goods. The guards explained this was intended to keep the women occupied and to facilitate the acquisition of useful skills for the post-war era. Annalise was assigned to the garden detail. There, she met more Americans, civilian volunteers from nearby towns who came to assist with the agricultural projects. Most were elderly men and women, ranchers and farmers, intimately familiar with the unique soils of Texas. It was in the garden that she encountered Jack Thornton once more. Howdy, he greeted her, recognizing her instantly. The lady whose truck broke down. You made it safe and sound. Annalise suddenly felt acutely self-conscious of her work clothes. The dirt lodged beneath her fingernails. What are you doing here? She inquired. Volunteering. The government asked local ranchers to help teach you all about Texas crops. Figured I could spare a few hours a week. He surveyed the garden plot. You planning to plant in this heat? The guard said, ... quotes. The guards don't know Texas soil. Jack's voice was respectful but firm. He turned to the supervising officer. Sir, if you plant now, everything will bake to death. You need to wait until the full planting season, September, maybe October. The guard looked annoyed. We have our schedule. Your schedule doesn't account for Texas weather, but hey, it's your garden. Jack doffed his hat, preparing to leave. Wait! Annalise surprised herself by speaking up. Could you teach us about the seasons here? About the soil? Jack turned back, a slow smile spreading across his face. I reckon I could do that. Over the following weeks, Jack became a frequent presence in the garden. He instructed the women on the intricacies of Texas agriculture, when to plant, how to irrigate, which crops could thrive in the intense heat. More significantly, however, he conversed with them, asked questions, and treated them as individuals, not merely as inmates. Are your folks still in Germany? He asked Annalise one afternoon as they tested soil pH levels in Bremen. I haven't heard from them in 2 years. Her throat tightened. I don't know if they are alive. I'm sorry. That must be hard. It is what it is. She focused on the soil sample, avoiding his eyes. You. Family. Wife passed 5 years ago. Cancer. No children. Just me and the ranch now. I'm sorry. Me too. He paused, but life goes on. That's what she would have wanted. A loneliness in his voice resonated with her own profound sense of isolation. Annalise looked up to find him watching her, an expression in his eyes she couldn't quite decipher. Mr. Thornton? Jack. 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 Jack, she corrected. The name, feeling foreign on her tongue. Why are you here? Truly, it can't just be for the gardening. He considered her question thoughtfully. To be honest, I was curious. Wanted to see if you all were as bad as the propaganda said. Turns out, you're just regular folks, mostly scared people a long way from home. Seemed wrong to let you suffer needlessly. You are very American. He chuckled. I'll take that as a compliment. It was meant as one. Their gazes met. Something intangible passed between them, not yet attraction, but a profound recognition. Two solitary individuals, forging an unexpected connection in the most improbable of circumstances. A guard's shout signaled the end of the workday. As the women lined up to return to the barracks, Greta approached Annalise. He likes you, she said in German. Don't be silly. He does not. I saw the way he looked at you, like a person, not a prisoner. Greta smiled. And you like him too. I barely know him. And when has knowing someone ever stopped feelings from happening? Annalise wanted to argue, but couldn't. Greta was right. She did like Jack's steady competence, his unwavering kindness, the way he treated them with dignity when most Americans regarded them with suspicion or animosity. But liking him was perilous. He was the enemy. She was a prisoner. Whatever she felt, whatever he might feel, it was utterly impossible. That night, lying on her cot, Annalise couldn't stop thinking about Jack's smileless smile that promised profound complications. Jack Thornton's visits to the camp soon increased to 3 times a week. He brought seeds, tools, and invaluable advice. More importantly, he brought something far more precious, a sense of normalcy. He conversed with the women as if they were neighbors, not adversaries, inquiring about their lives before the war and sharing anecdotes about his ranch. You've never seen a rodeo? He asked Annalise. One day, genuinely astonished. Well, that's a tragedy. Rodeos are the heart of Texas culture. I had never even seen a real cowboy until I came here, she admitted. I thought they only existed in films. We're pretty real, he affirmed, gesturing to his worn boots and sun-faded hat, though maybe not as glamorous as Hollywood paints us. I don't know. You seem rather glamorous to me. The words escaped before she could stop them. Jack's eyes widened. Annalise felt a blush creep up her cheeks. I mean, the ranch, the lifestyle, it seems glamorous. She stammered in German, then caught herself. Forgive me. I forget my English when I'm flustered. Don't apologize, Jack said softly. I like hearing you speak German. It's beautiful. They gazed at each other, the moment stretching around them. Other women worked in the garden, yet they were as good as alone. Jock? Annalise whispered. This? Dot? We can't. I know, he conceded, looking away and breaking the spell. You're right. I probably shouldn't be coming here so often. No. She instinctively reached out and gripped his arm. I didn't mean it that way. Dot, please don't stop coming. The way he spoke her name, his Texan accent softening the German pronunciation, sent a tremor through her. If I keep coming here, I'm going to do something foolish. Like what? Like falling in love with a woman I can't have. The honesty was heartbreaking. Annalise released his arm, her hand trembling slightly. We barely know each other. I know. But that doesn't seem to matter, he countered, meeting her gaze once more. Does it? Before she could answer, Greta called out. Annalise. The guards are telling us to go back. The moment shattered, Annalise stepped back, creating a safe distance. I should go, yes. You should. Neither of them moved. Finally, Jack removed his hat, a familiar, polite case to her, then turned and walked towards his truck. Annalise watched him leave, her heart performing a complicated dance in her chest. That night, the barracks buzzed with whispers. Several women had observed the exchange between Annalise and Jack. Some were shocked, others envious, and a calculating few saw opportunity. If you can marry an American husband, you'll never be sent back to Germany, Hilda stated matter-of-factly. It's a clever strategy. This isn't a strategy, Annalise protested. I'm not looking for anyone. Perhaps you should be. Hilda's tone was practical, not unkind. Let's be realistic. Germany's destroyed. Most of us have no homes to return to. But if we marry Americans, we get protection, citizenship, a future. You can't just marry for citizenship, Greta argued. Why not? People marry for worse reasons, at least this way. You'd marry a kind man who would treat you well. Hilda gestured around the barrack. Look at us. We're prisoners of war. When this is over, we'll be repatriated to a starving, broken country. But if we have American husbands, we can stay and build new lives. The idea spread through the camp like wildfire. Within days, the women began paying extraordinary attention to the civilian volunteers, asking questions, smiling more, and learning English phrases. Some began to refer to them as cowboy hunters, a term uttered with a mix of derision and serious intent. It's undignified, Frau Weibel, an older woman, complained. Throwing yourselves at American men like desperate girls. We are desperate, someone retorted. I'd rather be desperate with a future than proud with nothing. Not all the volunteers welcomed this newfound attention. Some were married, others old enough to be the women's fathers. But a few of the younger bachelors and widowers, like Jack, began to linger longer. Converse Morian look at certain prisoners with something more than duty or pity in their eyes. The camp commander soon took notice. He called a meeting for the civilian volunteers. When Jack returned to the garden the following day, he looked troubled. What's wrong? Annalise asked. The commander gave us a lecture. Said some prisoners and volunteers were getting too close. Worried about the inappropriate conduct. He spoke the word as if it tasted bitter. Said we needed to maintain professional distance. Oh, Annalise's heart sank. Say, do you? Jack's voice sharpened. Because I don't. We haven't done anything wrong. We're just talking, getting to know each other. What's inappropriate about that? I am a prisoner. You are a civilian volunteer. There are rules. Stupid rules! He kicked up the dirt. Sorry, I shouldn't say that, but it just feels wrong. Treating people like they're dangerous just because of where they were born. That's what this war is. The war is almost over. This, ... He gestured around the garden, the camp, everything. This is just stubborn. They worked in silence for a while. Then Jack said softly, I'm not going to stop coming here. Not because of any commander's rules, or because people think it's wrong. I'm coming here because I want to. Because you, ... Double quotes. He paused. Because you make me feel less alone. The admission seemed to cost him. My wife's been gone 5 years. I thought I wouldn't feel anything for anyone again. Then I met you. He shook his head. I'm too old to be this foolish. You're not old at all. I'm 47. You're 31. Not exactly spring chickens. Young enough. Jack offered a melancholy smile. What are we doing, Annalise? I don't know. But I also don't want you to stop coming here. Precisely because it's complicated. Especially because it's complicated. She was surprised by her own frankness. Simple is boring. Complicated is real. He laughed. A genuine, heartfelt sound that sent a flutter through her. You're quite a woman. Do you know that? Is that good or bad? Undecided. I'll let you know. They grinned at each other like conspirators. In that moment, the barbed wire, the watchtowers, and the war itself seemed utterly distant. Autumn brought cooler weather and new complexities. The European conflict was undeniably nearing its conclusion. Everyone could sense it. The question was not asterisk if asterisk Germany would surrender, but asterisk when asterisk, and what would become of the prisoners then? The women split into two factions. One yearned to return to Germany. The other desperately sought to remain in America. The latter group swelled weakly, spurred by letters from relatives describing the devastation abroad and encouraged by their burgeoning relationships with American civilians. Annalise received a letter from her cousin in Bremen. She read it 3 times, each instance hoping the words might change. Bremen is gone. The city you remember no longer exists. Allied bombing destroyed most of the old quarter. Your parents' house? I'm so sorry, Annalise. It was hit in an air raid last year. They survived but lost everything. They are in a shelter now. Conditions are terrible. No food, no medicine. The Russians are pressing from the east. Everyone is terrified. If you have any way to stay in America, stay. There is nothing left for you here but pain and hunger. Save yourself while you still can. Annalise showed the letter to Jack during his next visit. He read it in silence, his jaw tight. I'm so sorry, he finally said. About your parents, about everything. They're alive. That's some comfort. But her voice was hollow. My cousin says to stay here if I can. But how? I'm a prisoner. When the war ends, they'll send us back anyway. Unless you have a reason to stay. Their eyes met, the unspoken possibility hovering between them like a dangerous promise. Jack, I can't. I wouldn't use you like that. Annalise's voice was resolute. If you're implying what I think you're implying, ... I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying there are options, legal ones, for prisoners who want to stay. He paused, running a hand through his hair. My friend's a lawyer. He knows immigration law. He says if a prisoner of war marries an American citizen, they can petition for residency after the war. Marriage. The word felt as heavy as a mountain. It's just an option. I'm not saying ... He ran a hand through his hair. Hell, I don't know what I'm saying. I just don't want to see you hurt. See any of y'all hurt. This war wasn't yours to start, but you're paying the price for it. That's life, but it doesn't mean it's fair. Around them, other women were engaging in similar conversations with other volunteers. The cowboy hunters grew bolder, directly inquiring about marriage, sponsorship, and any avenue to remain in America. Some men shied away from the attention. Others seemed flattered but unsure. A few, a very select few, appeared genuinely interested. There will be many marriages. Greta predicted one evening. Mark my words. By the time this war is over, at least 5 women in this camp will be married to American husbands. What about you? Hilda asked.
Interested in bagging a cowboy?
Maybe. Greta smiled. There's a volunteer named Tom. He runs the library program. We've been talking. He's kind, funny. Lost his wife 2 years ago. She shrugged. Things could be worse. Perhaps it's love, Annalise murmured. Perhaps it's survival, Greta corrected. Come to think of it, it's pretty much the same thing. Was it truly the same thing? Annalise thought of Jack, his slow smile, his rough hands so gentle with plants, the way he looked at her as if she mattered. She thought of her destroyed home, her parents in a shelter, her cousin's plea to save herself. Could love truly blossom from desperation? Could one marry out of necessity, hoping that at some point survival would transform into genuine affection? The question kept her awake at night. Jack, too, seemed to be wrestling with similar questions. He came to the camp, but was quieter now, more withdrawn, as if battling something unspoken. Finally, on a gray November afternoon, as they harvested the last of the autumn vegetables, he said, "Annalise, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Okay, if I were to hypothetically propose marriage to you, would you say yes, because you wanted to, or because you needed to?" The directness of the question almost choked her. "I don't know how to answer that." "Try." She set down her basket and faced him. "If you had asked me a month ago, it would have been need. Purely for survival. But now, ... She struggled for words. "Now, I don't know where the need ends and the wanting begins. I like you, Jack. I look forward to seeing you. You make me laugh. You make me feel like a person again. Is it love? I don't know. But it's something that's honest, at least," he reiterated. "What about you? If you asked me, would it be out of pity or something more?" "Not pity." His voice was firm. "Never pity. I don't know what it is, exactly. Maybe attraction. Connection. It's that I've been half dead for 5 years, and you make me feel fully alive again." He looked away. "But I'm not sure that's enough reason to get married." "No, perhaps not." They stood in the garden, surrounded by fading plants and the harbinger of winter, both grappling with the impossible equation. "Can I tell you something crazy?" Jack asked. "Please." "Part of me still wants to propose to you, despite all logical reasons against it, despite knowing we barely know each other, despite everything." He met her gaze. "Is that crazy?" "Completely." Annalise felt tears welling in her eyes. "But I would still say yes, despite all the same reasons, despite knowing we barely know each other, despite everything." "So, we're both crazy, it seems." They exchanged smiles, sad and complicated, acknowledging the impossible truth of what they felt. "I haven't proposed yet," Jack said. "Not yet. Not until I'm sure it's right for both of us." "I know, but I haven't ruled it out either." "I know that too." The guard called out the end of the workday. As Annalise walked back to the barracks, she felt something fundamentally shift within her. She had arrived in America as a prisoner, expecting cruelty. Instead, she had found kindness, connection, and, however distant, the possibility of happiness. Texas was not what she expected. Americans were not, and Jack Thornton was certainly not. But perhaps that was the point. Perhaps the best things in life were those you never anticipated. December ushered in the first frost and a new development that would change everything. The commander summoned everyone for a mandatory assembly in the mess hall. 300 women whispered nervously as they queued to enter. 4 weeks, rumors had swirled about the war's end, repatriation plans, and their uncertain futures. "Ladies," Commander Morrison began, his voice formal yet tempered, "I have received word from Washington. The collapse of Germany is imminent. Within months, the war in Europe will officially conclude. At that time, all prisoners of war will be repatriated to their countries of origin." A clamor erupted in the room. Some women wept with relief, eager to return home and seek out surviving relatives. Others turned pale. Annalise felt a cold dread settle in her stomach. "However," Morrison continued, raising his voice above the din, "there is an alternative. Any prisoner who secures sponsorship from an American citizen may apply for a residency permit in lieu of repatriation. This requires proof of employment, housing, and financial support. The application process is rigorous, and approval is not guaranteed." He paused, scanning the crowd. "I will be frank. Marriage to an American citizen is the most direct path to securing sponsorship. If any of you have cultivated such relationships with civilian volunteers, now is the time to formalize them. You have 3 months to submit your applications. After this period, for those without approved sponsorship, forced repatriation will be inevitable. 3 months. They had 3 months to determine their futures. After the assembly, the barracks erupted in a frenzy of conversation. Women who had previously flirted casually with volunteers suddenly became intensely serious. Those who had resisted the idea of cowboy hunting reconsidered in the face of harsh reality. Return to a ruined homeland, or find a way to stay. I'm going to ask Tom, Greta announced, when he's on duty at the library tonight. I'm going to ask him directly. What if he says no? Hilda, ask it. Ask it? Then I go back to Germany. Most likely to starve. But at least I tried. Greta's voice was defiant. I won't go down without a fight. She was not alone. In the ensuing week, at least a dozen women proposed to their volunteer acquaintances. Some were accepted immediately. Others gently declined. A few volunteers requested time to consider. Jack did not come to the camp for 10 days. Annalise tried not to panic. But each day without seeing him felt like a small death. Had he heard about the deadline and decided to avoid the situation entirely? Had he realized he didn't want the complications of a German wife? When he finally appeared, he looked as if he hadn't slept in days. Can we talk? He asked. In private, the guards allowed them to walk along a perimeter path within the camp boundaries, away from the other women. They walked in silence for a while, their breath pluming in the cold air. I'd been thinking, Jack finally began, about Morrison's announcement, about the deadline, about us. Annalise's heart hammered in her chest, and I talked to my lawyer friend about what exactly marrying a POW entails, the legal process, the vetting, the paperwork. He stopped, turning to face her. It's complicated. They'll investigate to ensure the marriage is legitimate. Interview us separately. Cross-reference our statements. If they think it's a sham marriage for citizenship, they'll deny the application and send you back anyway. I understand, but the thing is, Jack took her hand. The first time he had touched her beyond a casual brush. I don't think this would be a sham. I think it would be real. Hasty. Yes. Unconventional. Absolutely. Absolutely. But real. Annalise couldn't breathe. Jack, let me finish. I've been alone for 5 years. I thought I'd never marry again, never feel anything for anyone again. Then you came along. I know it's crazy. I know we barely know each other. I know all the logical reasons why this is a terrible idea. He tightened his grip on her hand. But I also know that when I'm with you, I feel alive again. And when I'm not with you, I'm always thinking about being with you. That has to mean something. It means you're lonely, Annalise said carefully. And I'm convenient and desperate. No. His voice was sharp. Don't diminish this. Don't diminish yourself. You're not convenient. You're extraordinary. You're brave and smart, and you make me laugh. Even when there's nothing funny. Yes, the circumstances are terrible. Yes, you need help, but that doesn't mean my feelings aren't real. Tears were now streaming down Annalise's cheeks. I'm scared. Of what? Of using you. Of you regretting it. Of building a life on desperation, and then it crumbling when the desperation fades. Jack pulled her closer. What if it doesn't fade? What if this is the start of something good? A strange start, yes, but good nonetheless. You can't guarantee that. No, but I can guarantee effort. I promise to respect you, to be loyal, to work at this like it matters, because it does. You matter. He paused. So, this is what I'm asking, Annalise Becker. Will you marry me? Not because you have to, not because you're desperate, but because you believe. Maybe, just maybe, we can build something real together. Annalise looked at this man who had no obligation to be kind to her, who had brought laughter into the darkest period of her life, and who offered not just rescue, but companionship. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I will marry you. Jack kissed her, gently and tentatively, as if afraid she might shatter. It was her first kiss in 4 years, and it felt like coming home to a place she had never been. Around them, The camp continued its daily routine. But for Annalise and Jack, their world had just shifted into a new, terrifying, yet profoundly possible state. The ensuing 3 months blurred into a haze of paperwork, interviews, and bureaucratic nightmares. Jack enlisted his lawyer friend to navigate the intricate process. Annalise filled out forms until her hand ached. They were interrogated separately about their relationship when they met, what they discussed, and intimate details designed to ascertain the marriage's authenticity. "What's her favorite color?" the immigration officer asked Jack. "Blue, like the sky over the ranch." "What does she like to eat?" "She's still exploring American food. Says she likes barbecue, but misses German bread." "Why are you marrying her?" Jack met the officer's gaze directly. "Because she makes me happy. Because I respect her. Because I want to spend my life with a woman who has been through hell and still found a way to be kind. That's enough." They approved his application. Other women were not so fortunate. Greta's application was rejected. The Immigration Service deemed her relationship with Tom insufficiently substantiated. Tom had only volunteered for 3 months, and they couldn't establish the relationship's veracity. "I'm being repatriated," Greta said, her voice hollow. They were packing her belongings the night before her transport. Back to Hamburg. "Back to nothing." "I'm so sorry," Annalise murmured. "Don't be. You made it out." "That's good. Someone had too." Greta offered a strained smile. "You take good care of your cowboy for both of wars. Make it worth it." They embraced, both weeping. Annalise watched Greta board the transport truck the next morning, observing its disappearance in the direction of the port. A profound wave of survivor's guilt washing over her. Of the 300 women at Seagoville camp, 47 secured sponsorship to remain in the United States, 22 through marriage, the remainder through employment or family ties. The other 253 were repatriated to Germany. Annalise's wedding took place on a cold February morning in 1946. The ceremony was simple. A judge's office, 2 witnesses, and the paperwork to make it legal. She wore a borrowed dress. Jack wore his best suit, the same one he had worn to his first wife's funeral. "Jack William Thornton, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." Annalise. "Maria Becker, do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Annalise thought of her parents in Bremen, of Greta on a ship heading toward the unknown, of the life she was relinquishing and the life she was choosing. "I do. Then by the power vested in me by the state of Texas, I pronounce you husband and wife." Jack's kiss this time was longer, more confident. When they broke apart, his eyes shone with unshed tears. "Welcome to Texas, Missy Stornan." The words felt surreal. She was an American now, or would be once the citizenship process was complete. She had married a man she had known for only 6 months. She was building a life in the very country that had held her captive. It should have felt wrong, yet it felt, for the first time in years, utterly right. They drove to his ranch in Jack's pickup, the same truck that had stopped to help when a transport broke down. The ranch was modest, a small house, a barn, and a few acres of scrubland stretching to the horizon. Yet, in its simplicity, it was beautiful. "It ain't much," Jack said, a hint of nervousness in his voice. "But it's paid for, and it's ours now. If you want it to be, that is." Annalise walked through the house. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room with a fireplace, simple furniture, clean but worn. A bachelor's home, now no longer solitary. "It's perfect," she said, genuinely. That night, they lay in bed, the first of many. Jack held her carefully, as if she might vanish if he held her too tightly. "You all right?" he asked. "I'm terrified." "Me too." "What if we made a mistake?" "Then we'll do our best." He kissed her forehead. "We're in this together now. Whatever happens." Annalise nestled into his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. Outside, Texas stretched into the darkness. Somewhere across the ocean, Germany was rebuilding from ashes. And in this small ranch house, 2 people who had once been enemies were striving to build a future neither had ever planned. It wasn't the life she had imagined. But perhaps, just perhaps, that was perfectly fine. Perhaps the best life was precisely the one you stumbled upon when all your carefully laid plans had fallen apart. Indeed, 5 years later, Annalise stood in her flourishing garden, now abundant with Texan crops and German flowers she had successfully cultivated, reading a letter from Greta Dare and Alice. I apologize for taking so long to write. Life here has been difficult. Hamburg is slowly rebuilding, but the progress is painful. I found work at a hospital. They desperately need nurses. The pay is low, but at least there is work. I sometimes think of Texas, of what it might have been like if my application had been approved. Tom, I wrote to him once, but received no reply. I don't blame him. The war is over. He has moved on. But here's the surprising part. I am not as miserable as I thought I would be. Germany is my home, even broken. My family is here. What's left of them? There is a doctor at the hospital, Carl. He lost his wife in the bombing. We've been spending time together. Nothing serious yet, but perhaps it will develop. What I want to say is, you don't need to feel guilty for your happiness. You made a choice. I made a different choice. Both are valid. You got Texas, a cowboy, and a new life. I got Hamburg, rebuilding, and maybe Carl. Different paths. Both good enough. Be happy, Annalise. You deserve it. Love. Greta. Annalise carefully folded the letter and looked towards the ranch house. Through the window, she could see Jack preparing lunch. In the side yard, the neighbors' children were playing. They often came over in the afternoons while their mothers worked. Annalise had begun teaching them German, and in turn, they taught her how to speak English without an accent. She was an American now. Officially, her citizenship had come through the previous year. She could vote, work without restrictions, and travel freely. She had built her life here. It wasn't the life she had planned in Bremen, but it was a good life nonetheless. Jack appeared at the doorway. Lunch is ready. Coming. Be right there. She walked over and kissed him, a gesture that still surprised him after 5 years. I love you. I love you too. He smiled, his face weathered but as warm as ever. What made you say that? Just thinking about how we got here, how impossible it all seemed then. And now it feels inevitable, like I was always meant to be here. You believe in destiny now. You always said that was foolish. Perhaps I was wrong. Or perhaps we create our own destiny through the choices we make and the effort we put in every day. She took his hand. Either way, I'm glad I chose here. Chose Texas. Even though you have to put up with a cowboy, especially because of the cowboy, she grinned. Turns out, they aren't so bad after all. A little rough around the edges, but good hearts underneath. Together, they walked into the house, leaving the garden to grow freely and beautifully under the Texas sun. Years later, when people inquired about Annalise's journey from prisoner of war to Texas ranch wife, she would tell them the truth. It was no fairy tale. It was messy and complicated, forged in desperate circumstances, but it was also profoundly real. Two individuals, against all logical counsel, chose each other. Two people who built love from an improbable friendship and made it work through sheer, tenacious will. Would you do it all again? Someone once asked, knowing how challenging it had been. Annalise looked at Jack, now white-haired, his steps slower but still steady, and smiled. Every time, I would choose him, every single time. And she meant it.